Heed my words. I am Melania, Blade of Mikola, and I have never known defeat. Corpse after corpse left in my wake.
Want to be the ultimate magic knight? A type of elemental juggernaut that loves to infuse elemental effects on your weapons and obliterate your enemies with devastating attacks. A hard-hitting magical swordsman that combines might and magic to eliminate its foes and be arguably the most thematic build for our origin character Lae'zel. This build utilizes elemental infusions and burst damage to its absolute limit. I was really fascinated in playing a magical raid boss that blends devastating cantrips to further augment its physical attacks to insane degrees in order to achieve the hardest hitting creature that'll even make our god queen Blackith smile in brutal delight. In order to do this, we're gonna play around the nasty silver sword of the astral plane. This powerful sword can deal devastating attacks using its innate ability to be the perfect weapon for the Githyankies. This majestic sword will add 1 to 6 psychic damage to its weapon attacks, plus we gain advantages in intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. The user can't be charmed when it's using this weapon, along with its really cool abilities such as Soulbreaker, that can stun your targets for 2 turns. The stun alone makes it very unique among other martial weapons aside from the Myrmidon flail. A stun is literally one of the nastiest debuff along with obviously killing your foes, because enemies that get stunned don't do anything, they just stand there. We're also going to increase its monstrous proficiency in swinging really hard by introducing the new Oath of the Crown Paladin from the final patch version as our base. This noble subclass will provide us some much needed boost to our attack rolls with the help of the Righteous Clarity. This will just cost us 1 divinity charge, and it will provide us proficiencies in our attack rolls for 10 turns. We're absolutely gonna need this to counter that annoying -5 penalty to our attack rolls when we use our Great Weapon Master all-in passive ability. This will make it much easier for us to connect our chunky swings directly to our target's faces. We're also gonna add some really useful abilities from the reliable Swarmkeeper Ranger's Gathered Swarm. This will be the Fury of the Moth's ability, where we can get the option to add more psychic damage to our attacks, further triggering that elemental infusion, blind ability that is perfect for really chunky bosses, and the free teleportation spell that will not trigger any opportunity attacks. Our magical raid boss can not only hit really hard, it is also very mobile. We can also open up the options with the Wasteland Wanderer ability that will increase our fire resistances to reduce that fire damage that we get on our explosive weapon coating swings. Now all we need is to add that magic swordsman aspect to the build, which will be the Eldritch Knight. This powerhouse of a class will mix up cantrip spellcasting to augment our devastating attacks. With the help of the passive Warcaster, when we cast the cantrip, we can now use our bonus action to deal melee damage. What's really cool about this one is once you pair this with the necklace of elemental infusion, our cantrips can now deal additional damage based on our spellcasting modifier. Once the cantrip connects to our target, we're gonna infuse that elemental effect to our weapons using the Ring of Elemental Infusion. This will let us deal additional 1 to 4 elemental damage of that type on our successful weapon swing attack. Emphasizing on the word attack here, this will also affect our Soulbreaker, Lacerate, Pommel Strike, and my favorite, Cleave, that can devastate 3 targets in a single swing. All of that physical damage plus elemental damage will be released to those unfortunate souls. Not only that, we have access to the Booming Blade that will deal thunder damage, perfect for bursting down bosses, and that added thunder damage will also be infused to our follow-up melee attack. We're also gonna be using our spellcasting ability with some concentration spells like Enlarge that'll further add 1 to 4 physical damage to our weapon swings and trigger the effect of the strange conduit ring. This will add another 1 to 4 psychic damage to our weapons. The amount of elemental effects just keeps on piling up. I haven't even mentioned the elemental infusions that we can do with the Drake Throat Glaive. Plus, we can either use our cantrips like Ray of Frost or Shocking Grasp to add more elemental effects to our arsenal. This will make sure your enemies will turn into a pile of blood on the floor in a matter of seconds. With the innate ability of the Eldritch Knight being a subclass of the fighter, we also have access to numerous attack capabilities like Action Surge, Extra Attack, plus the Teleport and free Misty Step race ability of the Githyanki. No enemy is safe once you start mowing everything down. I've mentioned most of the gear already, so we're just gonna complete the needed items to make this build possible. For the headpiece, we're gonna be using the Warp Headband of Intellect for that free 17 points of intelligence so that we can boost our spellcasting modifier. Cloak of Protection for the +1 AC and saving throw, Armor of Agility for dexterity scaling of our AC, Helldusk Gloves for that added fire damage to our weapon attacks, Evasive Shoes for +1 in AC and acrobatics, Necklace of Elemental Augmentation for that elemental augmentation passive that I mentioned earlier, Ring of Elemental Infusion for elemental infusions to our weapons, Strange Conduit Ring for that added 1 to 4 psychic damage once we use our concentration spell like Enlarge, and main hand weapon will be the Sword of the Astral Plane. Majority of the gear that I mentioned can be acquired fairly early, so this means that the further your level increases, you'll just keep scaling with this magical build. With all those items present, your gear will most likely look like this. The most thematic and powerful Githyanki build for Baldur's Gate 3 is born. God Queen Vlaakith will be so proud. Now, let's get into how we actually create this monster. We're gonna start off with the races. As usual, you can select any character that you want to play as for as long as you're happy playing that build. For this case, you're just gonna need to use a Disguise Self spell on yourself and transform into the Githyanki before a battle. This will let you have the effects of the Silver Sword of the Astral Plane, which will add an additional psychic damage together with other really nice resistances while you are a Githyanki. You can just remove the Githyanki form after that battle. But if you're someone who don't want to bother with all that, you can choose the Githyanki as your primary race. This will provide one of the best class features in the game, which is the Martial Prodigy, light and medium armor proficiency, short sword, long sword, and great sword, and the really nice action, which is the Astral Knowledge that will provide you with proficiencies in any skills that you choose. For the classes, we're gonna start off with the Paladin. We'll just need the brand new Channel Divinity from the Oath of the Crown. Abilities will most likely look like this. We'll be prioritizing Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution for this build. Strength will be our damage for our physical attacks and jump distances. Dexterity is for our initiative and our AC. Constitution obviously is for our maximum health. We just need a little bit of maximum health in order for us to not get one tap, especially when we are in large scale battles. Jumping into progression at level 2 of our Paladin, we're gonna be introducing our first multi-class of the build, which is the Fighter. We're just gonna need a couple of levels to make this build really powerful as early as we can. For the fighting style, we're gonna grab Great Weapon Fighting. Level 2 of the Fighter, level 3 of our character, we now have access to our Action Surge. This will let us do an additional action after we use up all of our main attacks. Level 3 of the Fighter, still focusing on this class, we now have access to our specialization, which will be the Eldritch Knight. For the cantrips, we will grab the most important one, which is the Booming Blade. This will let us infuse thunder damage to our attacks on top of that really nasty Booming Blade effect. For the second cantrip, you can either choose from the Ray of Frost for a ranged attack ice ability or the Shocking Grasp for that melee range lightning damage. For this build, I just go with Ray of Frost to infuse my weapon with ice damage. For the spells, just grab Shield and any spell that you want to add. For the expanded, just grab all of the transmutation spell that is useful to your build, such as Long Strider or Feather Fall. Level 4 of our Fighter, still focusing on this class, we now have access to our first feat of the build, and we will grab the Strength as early as possible. With the help of the Hera for Anti-Ethel, we can increase our Strength to 20. For the spells, again, just grab any spells that you want for this level. I'll just go with Thunder Wave. Level 5 of the Fighter, level 6 of our character, we now have access to our extra attack. This will let us follow up an additional melee attack once we use our main attack. Level 6 of the fighter, we will now have access to an additional feat to the build, and we will just get another set of ability improvement focusing on our dexterity. This will increase our dexterity to 18. Now level 7 of fighter, we now have access to the most important subclass feature, which is the Warcaster. When we cast a cantrip, we can now make an additional weapon attack using this bonus action. For the spells, just grab any spells that is remaining, such as Chromatic Orb or maybe Protection from Good and Evil. Level 8 of the fighter, we will now just hold off with this level because we will be grabbing our final multi-class of the build in the form of the Ranger. For the favorite enemies, we will just get Ranger Knight. For our Wasteland Wander ability, we will just get Fire and increase our fire resistance in order to reduce the damage that we'll take, especially when we swing our fiery weapon. Level 2 of the Ranger, level 10 of our character, we will now add our additional fighting style and put it up to defense. For the spells, just grab any spells that you like. We already have Enhanced Sleep as one of our race feature, so maybe Long Strider or Hunter's Mark. Level 3 of the Ranger, we will now have access to our specialization, which is the Swarmkeeper. This will push our build to its absolute limit using our Gathered Swarm, Flurry of the Moths. As for the spells, grab any spells remaining that you like. I'll just go with Speak with Animals or maybe Animal Friendship. Finally, level 12 of our character, we will now go back to our fighter class in order to make our spellcasting modifier into intelligence. As for the expanded ability that we'll get, we will now acquire the Enlarge. This will increase our weapon swings by 1 to 4 damage, as well as giving us additional HP. For the final feat, we will now grab our Great Weapon Master to add more damage to the build. If you want to swap out some feats with ability improvement and get the Great Weapon Master earlier, you can actually do that. Now it's time for our live combat simulation in order for me to show you guys how powerful this build can be. As usual, we're gonna be starting with the setup using our Drake Throat Glaive. So for this glaive, we're gonna add more damage to our main weapon, which is the Silver Sword of the Astral Plane. Just simply drop this weapon here. After that, select the Draconic Elemental weapon and select whatever element that you want to infuse that weapon with. For this example, I'll just go with Lightning because it is one of my favorite elements in the game. After that is equip it. Following up with a weapon bind so that it doesn't get disarmed and we can actually throw our weapon using this bind weapon setup. Right after completing that, we're gonna be adding our consumables. For starters, grab the Elixir Bloodlust. This will provide us with a +5 to our HP, as well as an additional action once we kill a foes. Coatings is this really nice oil of combustion. This will coat our weapon with oil for 2 turns. Whenever our enemies takes fire damage, they will combust and deal 3 to 18 fire damage to everyone nearby for 10 turns. It will go really well with our Helldust gloves that will trigger that 1 to 6 fire damage in order to combust our enemies. So we're just gonna coat our weapon. After that, we're gonna follow up with our Righteous Clarity from our Paladin. This will increase our attack rolls for 10 turns. And finally, we're gonna follow up with our concentration spell, which is Enlarge. Now we are basically ready to battle using our magic Juggernaut. Now we just started combat of our build and we just got an opportunity attack from our enemies. If you notice, we just proc the Ranger ability, which is the Fury of Moth attack. We can deal additional 1 to 6 psychic damage. Blinding Swarm, which is really nice for bosses, and a free teleport that doesn't trigger opportunity attacks. For this example, I'll just be using the blind, so we're just gonna be blinding the boss, and most likely she won't be able to hit us. She also got the combustion debuff, so once we hit her with our fire attack weapon, we'll be dealing additional fire damage to all of the enemies that are nearby this target. So, now to start off our turn, we opened up our turn with the normal attack earlier. We're just gonna use a burst attack as quickly as we can and activate Action Surge. After that we're gonna follow up with our Booming Blade to burst down this boss. That, another explosion. After that we can actually use our Soul Breaker. We can stun our enemies for 2 turns. Not many weapons in the game have the ability to stun, which makes this really OP once it hits. Now the boss is dead, just hit the critical. We activated the Elixir Bloodlust ability and we can now follow up with more attacks. We can actually follow up with a Ray of Frost just to get a Cold Infusion on our weapon. If you notice, we now have the Cold Infusion buff. As well as our side here, we now have 2 turns of Cold Infusion dealing 1 to 4 damage. And after that we can follow up with a normal attack to our enemies right there, or maybe use a great weapon master ability to try to eliminate this enemy right there. So she's dead. We can end our turn. This build is ridiculously bursty and can mow down your enemies as quickly as possible in just turn 1. Most likely your enemies are dead in that turn. This is how powerful it can be and can dish out so much damage as a magic knight, which is insane. Now it is our turn. We will try to burst down our enemies as quickly as possible and try to eliminate this enemy right here. So we're gonna use our realms just for the sake of it and follow up with an additional attack of psychic damage to our target. See, we just dealt an additional modifier right there, and we also get the thunder infusion. After that is we're gonna use a great weapon master, or maybe infuse our weapon once again with elemental effects like cold, and follow up with our attack. We can actually end our turn here, and we'll just try to eliminate that enemy right there. Move in closer, and we can end our turn. Opportunity attack trigger. Even in opportunity attacks, we can trigger our Moth Swarm attack ability and deal damage. See, she also has the combustion ability. After that is, again, we're going to use Booming Blade to try to eliminate this target. And follow up with our normal attack together with our Thunder Infusion ability. We'll just deal fire damage as well as dealing additional fire damage to that target. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching the build. Would love to know what you guys think in the comment below. Shout out to all the people who subscribe and keep supporting the channel. I really appreciate you guys for all the amazing support. And for all the people who haven't subscribed yet, thank you for watching my videos, and I hope I earn your subscriptions in the future. And if I earn it today, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. Do you guys love modding, build crafting, or interacting with the best community in Baldur's Gate 3? We actually have a Discord and we'd love to see you there. For more RPG news, builds, and mods, keep it here in this channel. Finally, that's it for me. I'll see you soon. The next Master Buck Show. Peace out. Bye, guys.